on April Fools. So the first of the month, happy April Fools. April Fools is our 6th anniversary celebration here of our store in Connecticut. If you're in the area, stop by. We're going to be running all sorts of promos. So make sure you go over and check out our website, tarotin.time, THYME.com, to learn more. Now, April 1st is the Libra full moon. So this is going to happen here on the 1st at 10:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is a 12-degree Libra full moon, often called the pink moon. It's going to be square Jupiter. So Jupiter makes everything bigger, and there's a abrasive action going on there. But this full moon is going to be trine Pluto, because Pluto's in the early degrees of Aquarius, an air sign, and Libra is an air sign. So this is called the relationship full moon. It's making a positive aspect with Pluto, which is power, and it's also sex. So this can be a really fabulous full moon. When Jupiter's squaring it, it's probably going to be one extreme or the other. Now, this full moon is going to be opposite, right? Because you got the sun on one side in Aries, and you've got the moon over there in Libra. That's a full moon is always opposite to each other. So we've got all those planets in Aries. And when we start off the month, that's the sun, how we show up in the world. It's Saturn, the planet of responsibility, Neptune, which I often call the fairy tale planet, or the dreamy, creative, healing planet. Those planets are all going to be opposite the moon in Libra. And this is a relationship moon. So it's almost like relationships across from Aries, which is like you. Okay. And so there's going to be a lot about you and other people. And if you're looking for love, there's a lot of spicy energy there available on the 1st. Now, remember, the full moon doesn't just affect us that day. It's a few days before, a few days after. So if you don't have moon water out yet, make sure you do that. Just grab a bottle, maybe a mason jar, something clear and covered, and put it into a window and let it charge up with the rays of this full moon. Now, especially if you're single and looking for love, I like to write out an order to the universe and put it underneath the water, just kind of place it under the jar, and then it kind of infuses the water along with the moon rays. So if you're looking for a relationship, write it out, write your order to the universe, put it in a positive statement, and ask for how you want to feel. Now, we move into Thursday the 2nd, where the moon is going to be continuing in the sign of Libra. The moon will be opposite Chiron, because Chiron is hanging out in Aries. Now, Chiron is an asteroid, I believe, but in astrology, Chiron is referred to as your soul's wound point. So Chiron is finishing up its time in the sign of Aries. And for anybody, I was born with Chiron in Aries. So people born between like the early 1970s, mid 1970s, you're going to have Chiron in Aries. So you're having a Chiron return, and Chiron kind of comes back and it shows you that wound, but it can show you how much you've healed with it. So I'm finding my Chiron return, I'm starting to make peace with a lot of things that have happened. Now, this moon is going to be opposite that. So it may mirror some old wounds for you. Take a peek at what's coming up around Thursday the 2nd. Now, Friday the 3rd, the moon moves into Scorpio early in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is the moon in a water sign. And we already know that we have a couple planets in Pisces, water sign, and we have Jupiter, the planet of luck and blessings, in the sign of Cancer. So this is called a grand water trine. So there's going to be a lot of emotion floating around. Now, I wrote down 4-3 to 4-5, but this is kind of lasts a little bit longer than that. It'll affect us probably most of the week. So there's a deep understanding of all that happened during the month of February and March, because remember, we had a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So now we've got all this water, and we'll start to understand a little bit more. We're coming out of the shadow period of Mercury retrograde. So we kind of got to look at everything from that way and then everything from that way. And then now we're going to get to see the full picture. Remember that gut feeling is going to be correct. And I think that's a statement always, but even more so pronounced right now as the moon enters the sign of Scorpio on Friday the 3rd. Now, let's see what else we've got. We've got a lot going on those days. We have Venus square Pluto. So Venus, let's see, where is Venus? Venus is hanging out in Taurus, and Pluto is hanging out in the sign of Aquarius. Now, they're both fixed signs, and they're both in early degrees of the fixed sign. So, Venus, love, relationships, values, harmony, money, square, 90-degree angle, Pluto, the planet of transformation and change. So sometimes this can bring about power struggles, especially in relationships. And we're talking about a relationship full moon week ruled by the sign Libra, which is a Venus-ruled sign. So be aware of the power struggles, choose harmony, be willing to change. That square is going to run from 4-3 to 4-10. Now, what else? There's so much. There's just so much going on. It's a Scorpio weekend. And Pluto's one of the rulers of Scorpio. Mars is also one of the rulers of Scorpio, and Mars rules the sign Aries. So there's a lot of Mars energy. Mars is the god of war in Greek mythology. There's a lot of feisty energy. Pluto is death and rebirth. So there's all this power. There's all this change. There's all this fresh energy of Aries coming in, and it's just intense. I feel like we went from all this Pisces that was kind of like watery and unclear and kind of slow moving, and now we're just full speed ahead. So be careful with the full speed ahead energy, that it's not argumentative. Use it for passion, use it for drive. Now, the moon is going to be trine Mercury in Pisces. That's a nice thing. So there'll be a lot of nonverbal communication. You may pick other people up. You might just sense other people. Maybe they call you or you call them, kind of thing. Now, the sun is going to be square Jupiter on the 5th, which is Sunday. And, Jupiter's all about optimism, like highly optimistic. So, it's great to be optimistic, but you also want to stay as grounded as you can with all of this watery energy going on. So let's pull a couple cards. So this is our Scorpio weekend, and we know, and this is our full moon week. Now we're kind of building, because by the end of this month, as we move into the month of May, we're going to go into a Scorpio full moon. So we've got a lot going on we got a lot of Scorpio. We've got a lot of Mars. We've got a lot of Mars. Remember, Mars is the original ruler of Scorpio until they found Pluto. So, and Aries is ruled by Mars. So there's a lot of get up and go, but there's a lot of feisty energy, and we don't want our relationships to end up in fights, right? So we have to use the energy wisely. Now, I'm going to pick a couple cards for you, and I've got some great decks that I'm working with this week. I've been really enjoying the Wildwood Tarot, and it's very, I think it's Nordic. And so this is kind of a cool deck. I'll have a link to it below. I'm also working with the Medicine Woman Tarot, which, this has been a favorite of mine for a while, and it really didn't hit me until I recently visited Hawaii that this is a Hawaiian deck. So very, very cool. I actually thought it was a Native American deck, but I guess that was a correct statement too. It's just a Hawaiian version. Okay, then I have the Spirit of the Animals Oracle. I used my pendulum to pick these. It was very specific which ones wanted to be worked with today. I have the Everyday Witch Familiar Oracle. So let's give us a couple cards for this first full moon week, relationship week. Now, remember, Venus is the ruler of Libra, and Venus just moved into Taurus at the end of March. And that's a good spot for it because Venus rules Taurus. It's the second best placement for Venus. The best placement is when it's in its own sign of Libra. So we've got some Venus, great Venus energy, and we've got a Venus full moon, but we've got a lot of get up and go with a lot of Mars energy. So let's see what cards are coming up for you this week. So the first card is the Seven of Arrows, and this is from the Medicine Woman deck. Now, this is traditionally the Seven of Swords. And usually the Seven of Swords looks like somebody like tiptoeing around or like sneaking around. But I think this is interesting that they're actually having like a meeting here. They're sharing information. It looks like there's a lot of books behind them and maybe stories. Like it kind of feels like somebody sharing like a native story. Maybe it's a story that is helping these other people. There's some form of communication here, sharing some kind of legacies, sharing some kind of story, and that's very important here. Okay, so let's see how that plays in here. We've also got the 10 of Bows, which is the responsibility card. Now, this is the 10 of Wands traditionally, and we know the 10 of Wands often looks like somebody carrying lumber, and it looks like he's got a long hike up that mountain. So there's a lot of responsibility here, and it looks like there's kind of a team of people here helping, but sharing the history of how things have been done in the past. Now, your first oracle card says water number 9, and it's the beaver. And he's chomping on the tree there. He's trying to cut the tree down, make his dam. And I'm not really sure, but I think beavers mostly do they live alone? I don't know. I usually see when I'm paddle boarding, I often see beavers by themselves. They obviously they have to come together with another beaver to have babies, but I get the vibe here like this is like somebody working hard on their own when the first card showed people gathering together. Now, this year, when we were talking about the chart of the year for 2026, it's a Libra rising chart. There was a lot of energy on one side of the chart that was the relationship side. So we know even if we're like independent creatures, maybe like this beaver, this is showing that you don't have to carry the heavy load all by yourself. Okay. It was a relationship full moon. It's asking you to work with others. Okay. Even if, sometimes I tell people like, working with others can even be just like working with AI or working with like an online program, something else that's going to assist you. Okay. Now, your other card is the hummingbird, and it says miracles. You are the joy bringer. You bless the world with positivity and love. Energy soars on your shining wings. Spread the miracle of happiness. And so we see 3 hummingbirds here working together. And hummingbirds defy gravity. I'm pretty sure science doesn't even understand how they fly. So there's like this magic happening, and you don't have to do it alone. Full moon, full relationship moon in the sign of Libra.